I started my own business about 5 years ago, and it's been a up and down process, and I'm just about to launch an immersive program, coaching program to help people who are fatigued and frustrated and frazzled with their life to find the funny faster and to heal with humor. Good night, everyone. The wildfire itself was a catalyst for so many people, and for me as well. And it really, whenever there's an event like that, such a big event, big emotions, it really gives us an opportunity, and most people don't see it that way, but it's an opportunity to kind of take stock of your life, where you're at, what you're doing. So you can see the fire came across the river, which really was a sign for us of just how close the fire came to damaging this little cul-de-sac. And so we thought that it was really important to memorialize, so to speak, that the fire impacted not only us, but a community. And this Arts Council partnership to write a play about the wildfire has been something that I didn't really know how much it was going to help me with, like, kind of the final chapter in my own healing around the fire, but also just something really, really cool. It's a really neat experience to be diving into creative writing in a different aspect.
Welcome to the Arts Council with Buffalo office. We have our main waiting/meeting area. We often hold our team meetings in this spot so that we can move around and see things happening, because we're artists and we need to have stimulus at all times. As we outgrew the Red Pole Center, we started looking around for a place to live, and Keanu Theater and Arts Center just seemed a perfect natural fit. There's artists and students and art happening all the time here, and we work very closely with Keanu Theater as well, and do a number of partnerships with them. So it was the perfect place to come. They had space, they welcomed us, and here we are. So we acquired from the municipality the Artist in Residency program, so we're taking it more to a traditional residency rather than kind of public art workshops that the municipality was running. So a traditional residency has an artist come to our community to work on their art form, and they engage with the community in different ways. So it might be mentoring another artist, it might be having community workshops, it might be the exhibit of their final piece of artwork, whatever that might be.
A lot of the residencies that we've already done were very mentorship focused, so they were workshop focused, and what I really wanted to see us do is something where it's not just an artist giving to others, but an artist creating work for themselves as well. And that's when this kind of came into play. So Carla reached out to us. She initially just wanted a consult. So she said, I've had this idea. She's written for Chicken Soup with the Soul, a lot of different short stories about the wildfire. And she just felt that it was the right time to have something on stage for this. Now, of course, Carla is a humorist, and so she believes a lot in kind of using humor to heal, so finding the funny and healing yourself through that. And that's what I think piqued our interest a lot is, of course the wildfire is a very, very difficult and hard subject, but trying to look at it not from the perspective on stage where you're trying to showcase the disaster, but instead showcase the healing was very in line with what it is that we try to do at Arts Council. So so she reached out to me, we had a conversation about it, and at that stage we didn't realize, I didn't put two and two together and think this could be a good artist in residency model, because she's living in town and typically an artist in residence comes in from somewhere outside of the community. But then of course with the pandemic and with her, her pitch pretty much already wrapped up in a bow for us, we thought, this would be an excellent way for us to kind of kickstart our version of the artist in residency with Carla.
I've since fixed it up. This is my office. This is where I come to play. This is where a large part of the work of writing will be done. I have a tendency to go outside for inspiration, and I do a lot of recording on my, just voice recording on my phone, just because the ideas will come to me when in the shower or driving or out in nature is where I'm relaxed.
So a dramaturg is, you could almost look at it as like a literary mentor who supports a playwright in developing their work. So that can involve some research. So if it's a period piece, for example, and you notice that there's a cell phone in the script, they will flag that for you. But it could also be someone who helps you unpack your ideas. So, or even be a sounding board. So with Carla White, she's of course a very experienced writer, but this is going to be her first time writing a play for the stage. She was saying that was the first thing she came to us with, actually, is I just want a sounding board. I want people that I can bounce ideas off of. And initially we thought, okay, great, maybe it can be a what we call verbatim theater, or there's another word. It's like devised theater, where you would have a whole bunch of people in a room that are just exploring, and then the play comes out of that. And she was saying, like, that's beautiful, but with COVID, that's very difficult for us to maneuver. And she was right. So we decided to move forward with a dramaturg.
I don't have her. Do you have her?
Phone number?
Oh, there she is. Nope, there she is. That's one of the things I haven't. Camille and I haven't sort of got the texting thing happening.
Right.
Oh, good morning.
Oh, you know what? I just got your message. I just washed my hair. I haven't even done it. I was like, do I have a shower?
For so many people, there was not that authority. So I thought that was a really, really powerful kind of awareness or learning of kind of that place of learning to trust your own instincts and take care of yourself first.
And that's interesting in terms of like looking at the recovery from that too, because often like we're going to hear this with regards to COVID too, that when the state steps in to help, then there's this weird kind of thing that happens where you kind of expect the state to help, but then we're all disgruntled with how the state has been helping us. So it's like a kind of like we're, so it's interesting because recovery is actually, I think, I might suspect it's a choice.
Yeah.
If you have the privilege to that, you know what I mean? It's tricky, but ultimately it's how you choose to recover, which will be interesting, I think.
I could write a whole play. I could write a movie about just our family's personal experience. And our neighborhood, but I said that's not necessarily reflective of the 88,000 people that are out there. And we didn't lose our house. And some of what I want to portray is also that there's a full spectrum of what the impact the fire had on people, like the people who, were in an area that wasn't impacted. It was a sort of blip in the road. Like it was a month where my life was up in the air, but moved on to the people who lost everything. For me, I think the part that is great in these interviews is seeing some of the themes or the themes or the scenes that we've kind of mapped out, being able to really flesh those out a lot more by hearing other people's experience, just because it sort of validates that, oh, okay, yeah, my experience was similar. In the stories might be different, but we'll see those trends, I think.
Somebody said they just called for evacuation of Grayling Terrace. And then I said, well, that's me. And they said, well, you got to go home. You got to get your stuff. So I grabbed Brady.
Right.
And when we went out the door, like I said to Brady, even tonight, I'll never forget the sound. And I can't even tell you what it was. And Brad said it was like, well, it's the forest burning. And I go, yeah, it was such an eerie sound when you walk out. And I remember I took my phone out and I pressed record. And I said, gotta go. There's a fire. And I went like this with my phone. And I posted it to Facebook.
But here at Holy Trinity, they showed up one day when they could first get back into the school, and every piece of paper had been separated from every binder, and the binders were in one pile and all the papers were in another. So you've got, 80 teachers here, and everything was just bagged and in piles for garbage, and they just were like like at a loss. Like, that's it, for some of them, that's like 15 years of work or whatever, right? And then because our air intake system, it didn't get shut down, so we were sucking in the whole time. So it all had to be redone, and so we were the last school to actually get up and running. And I came here, like, I would, it was a Sunday night before the long weekend, and I thought, we're not going to be ready.
Whenever you guys are calling it a state or a evacuation, I never liked that. I never really liked that, because I always felt like we didn't really have the choice. We were just making the best out of a bad situation, and that was just kind of the term we used, but I never really liked evacuation.
Expand on that a little bit more. You didn't like it because you didn't feel that it was...
I didn't feel it was the right thing to say at that point, just because I felt like a lot of people, several people, like I talked with a few people who had like lost their house, and even when we were at in Bonnyville with Melody and Dennis, when Clayton and his wife were there, we didn't really call it that at that point, but that kind of always made me think it was like, because they had ended up losing their house, and it was just like, it wasn't the right time. Now I don't mind calling it that, but like at the time when we were calling it an evacuation, it felt wrong.
And again, I'm always try to be very positive person. So, but I think I realized that I did, and I do have a triggers from it. And, talking about the fire is difficult. And I always said, oh yeah, no, it's fine. It's, and then I kind of, about a year afterwards, I kind of had a turning point where I realized, okay, no, I actually maybe do have a lot of maybe trauma related to this, because it was a big thing where, when you're standing there and literally the world is on fire, everything around you is on fire.
I was avoiding writing. I was like, okay, I really need to do some writing, and I don't feel like it. And that's one of the things about being an entrepreneur and a writer, is it can be really isolating. And so it was like, I'm going to go up and visit my friends at Chocolates and Candlelight. And I said, well, I'm actually here to avoid doing what I need to do. And June started to laugh, and she said, oh, I need to do a charcoal session with you. It's more like charred bark.
Yeah. So it's, if you see like that one.
Oh, yeah, that's charcoal. Right. Okay. Okay. What exactly are you teaching? Are you teaching about what the fire does in the forest? Or like, how in depth do you get about that?
Teaching about why the forest fires happen, just to make them feel that it's not all bad.
So it's like almost redefining the meaning of the event.
Yes.
Or the experience.
Yeah. It's just creating something positive out of something so negative.
So do you do just trees? Like, is that...
No, I don't do just trees when it's coming to the classes and the kids and families. I do the trees to represent each member of your home.
Okay.
Who you evacuated with. Like, if you, like for us, our picture was, I did 3 birch trees. Mm-hmm. And I did a bird. Mm-hmm. Because my husband was in Edmonton.
Okay.
At a doctor's appointment. So he couldn't be there. He left at 5 o'clock in the morning. The sky was beautiful. I was, oh, it's gorgeous. Oh, no problem. I'll be home at 7. I'm like, oh. So he's my little bird. He's the one that he had a different life experience than we had.
Start off with the ground, because that is your nutrition. That's grounding. Your soil, your grounding. Exactly. Because we need to ground. Big time.
All right.
See? You don't need a ruler.
No.
Have you ever seen a tree in the forest that's like, oh?
Poker straight?
No.
Only in my dreams.
Right?
I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Across the tree.
See?
So there was 5 of us.
There you go. It's just so it kind of has like a shadow. You can get like a 3D feel to it. It's not like, oh, we're just dealing with the fire. It's like, no, you're dealing with floods, you're dealing with different levels, different layers. You're dealing with the pandemic. You're dealing with extra little things that you thought you would be safe from.
I'm adding a sun.
You're adding a sun?
I'm adding a sun.
Okay.
Okay. There we go.
You can add, yeah, I like it. So this little part will just go. Yeah.
There we go. Better. 100%. Now I can frame it.
Okay, so let's talk more about the playwriting process for
Okay.
you. Because obviously it's lovely to talk about all the
All the other
talk
stuff,
about it,
yeah,
but we
yeah.
have to actually do it. When do you feel you will have something readable ready by?
Within, I would say, the next 10 days, we'll have a solid kind of,
Cool.
here we go.
Do you
Here's
feel the
the
pressure from me? It feels like you're
just
like,
the daggers in
we're
your.
gonna get-"
The biggest thing for me is realizing that it doesn't have to be like a finished,
Yes.
polished, complete. We need a script.
100%.
Right?
Exactly.
So, because even within, from my understanding from the director, is that as a part of what she will do on the 26th is start to do rehearsals, basically, reading of them, and that lots can change
Exactly,
even within
yes.
that process. So from the 26th to December 11th, 12th?
11th.
11th, when we do the staged reading, there will be kind of development, rewrites, kind of even just as they start to go through it. So I'm kind of, I would say within 10 days, what does that take us to, like November 15th?
Okay. The reason I'm pushing so much is because in my experience when it comes to when I've written in the past, one of the things that's really freeing is the ability to feel like, okay, I've really pushed myself to write a draft of something that I hate, and that I can see it in front of myself and say, okay, this was good. This was a good exercise for myself.
Right.
A lot of the times I think the first draft is the story you need to get out.
Right.
So then you can do that and then push it aside. I'm hoping that's kind of what you're feeling with
Yeah.
some of those journals.
Yeah.
The second draft is a little bit more of, okay, now I can start, now that I've done that,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of that can it'll still feed itself into your second or third drafts. It becomes a little bit less of you're telling a story and then more of you're showing a story.
I'm in that first,
Yeah.
like in that first phase still of, as Camille and I talk, it's like, okay, here's your writing exercise for the week, and it's a fair amount of it is that personal kind of story that it's probably going to hit the cutting room floor. That deadline gives me like structure, accountability, accountability, structure, and support is really, you guys have kicked me in the ass.
Good.
Yeah, so I think that's the piece that that Camille and I have worked really well with is, and when I get into the, oh my gosh, I'm procrastinating sitting down and writing this, and she said, oh, okay, so you need to also, we have this idea that we're not working when we're not actively writing, and she says, but you're doing interviews, you're collecting stories, you're gathering this information. And so she says, that's just the phase that you're at, relax into it. And that's the best reminder that I need is the relax.
Yeah, and trust the process.
And trust the process. This was probably the most emotional week that I've had. I had kind of got to a place where I was feeling a little overwhelmed with the deadline, but also the amount of content that we have. And so where I'm at right now in the writing, and it's different than writing a book. Like in the book, it was all about getting your bum in the seat and actually writing and doing that. With the play, the biggest difference has been the interviews and getting the interviews, and I loved that part of it. And so I was feeling, the last time we talked, I was feeling a little pressured because it was like, well, I don't have anything written down. My daughter was asking me about the diversity and getting the stories that I was getting, the people that I was interviewing. And I said, no, I haven't got all of the interviews that I want. Like, I haven't talked to a new Canadian that didn't have a place to go. Like, I really wanted to capture that. I haven't talked to certain groups of people that were not sort of long-term residents, or, you know, there's these pockets of people that I really want to capture their story, but it really came down to time. I talked to somebody from the hospital, so I got the whole story on the hospital evacuation from Debbie's perspective, and then talked to Lisa, got the perspective of sort of the school, what that looked like, and got some just amazing interviews. But I also did an interview with Joanne and Randy Sloan, who were part of it, and we discussed at length kind of this whole idea of the energy around the fire, and Randy put it really well when he said, you know, we all kind of have this sort of level of what kind of kindness we'll expect, or we can receive, and then Joanne said she was working in the school, and she said, you know, I kind of got to a point after about a year of, she said, I wanted to just stop talking about it. It was like, okay, enough already. And she said it wasn't until the flood happened, and she said that all of a sudden, she said, I was just overcome with this sadness for this community. You know, we're in another, what I call catastrophe situation. And I think that that's one of the things that came up for me and keeps coming up in the interviews, and why I found it so emotional, was what I'm seeing with the COVID response is this, you know, like do you wear a mask, not wear a mask, and these sort of polar opposite opinions of how we respond. And I'm seeing a lot of division in how people are looking at it. People's, you know, they're just emotionally, they're really struggling right now. And what I hear repeatedly in these interviews is how during that time we came together, and just how special Fort McMurray is, and what we went through and what we continue to go through. And this is different, but it's the same in a lot of ways, because a lot of those same emotions are coming up of, you know, kind of like, why am I so emotional about, you know, about being isolated? And I just said to my mom this morning, I said, oh my gosh, I just realized, so my family is not home right now. Mm-hmm. And I said, I just realized this is the first time that I have been home in my house by myself without my family since like February. Yeah. And yeah, so there's just a lot of emotion this week. Right now, where things are at is it's a multimedia production, and we would have probably five plus a narrator, so 6 actors, and then the director. I would want to be involved in that, so that's 7, and you know, we're starting to add up here. What are we going to do? And honestly, it was like, you know, we could push it out till January, thinking, oh, you know, this gives me a little bit more time, because that is some of the pressure of, okay, like I've got 2 weeks before I need to sort of hand a document over to a director and have them start working with it.
Years ago, I replaced my medication with meditation. That's how I was taking a break. When I hear Janelle on the back deck, and
I was just talking on the phone, texting people. I'm like, oh, yeah, no, it looks great here. It's fine. So I just continue to eat, and I'm looking and I'm thinking, I don't know if that looks great.
So with the COVID restrictions, I think that's part of my desire to have it not be a staged reading, because I think there's just so much action that is lost because we're having to do it over a Zoom call. So that's what we're on. We're on Zoom, and everybody's got their cameras on, and I don't have my camera on, but the original plan and what the contract is that on the 11th we would have a staged reading, and we would have been in person workshopping and rehearsing, and then we would have had a presentation of the play that it was at that point, in the theater, lights, cameras, the whole bit, and we would be inviting an audience in to view it.
Does anyone want to offer any thoughts about what the experience is to sort of take on that material and sort of be confronted by the beast in some ways?
I kept thinking of other people in my mind continuously and not my own story. And so that was, other than looking at some of the funny parts, which I was going, yeah, I remember that. And but when I got emotional, it was other people's stories.
I read it, had a big old cry, and then I went to bed, and it was much easier tonight. But I actually, I know Janice. I work with her. Good Shepherd.
The bigger story comes out. Like, it wasn't just about the fire. There are other traumas, there are other things that compound and come on and make our reactions so different. And there's not one cookie cutter reaction that works.
Really has that emotional aspect that just like, oh yeah, no, we go through hard things and keep going here. Yeah.
I had one thought. I'm traumatized, now leave me alone.
It's great. It's great. I love that.
I'm traumatized, don't look.
Oh yeah.
I can't do this, it's the public.
I can't do this.
He's from Fort McMurray.
Yeah, they're from Fort McMurray. That was like, that stuck out to me too.
So much for a traumedy. And it was heavy on the trauma. I wrote a note. Was Tina actually emotional, or was that just really good acting? It was like, I wasn't sure, but I felt I have not yet cried. That'll be in the bathtub later, but it was like heavy. Not necessarily in a bad way, but just like, this is not how I intended it. Like, I don't want to leave them hemorrhaging emotion when they leave.
It's now this next phase is finding that balance, you know what I mean, between how, how much do you give of that, and how much do you could go light with it as well.
Like, we're there, we're with you. So like, let's get into the meat, let's get into the juice, and prevailing opportunities of going, what can we show and not tell? So welcome to our digital rehearsal hall. Welcome to our sort of online Zoom space that we've been building for the past couple of weeks. Obviously, you all know a bit about what we're doing here, and this is sort of our, we're not calling it a culmination, but we're just calling it a celebration of the work that Carla has been incredibly working away on for the past couple of weeks. We've been fortunate enough to be able to spend some time with this incredible play, and we're very excited to just sort of sit inside of the work right now. Forged by Fire by Carla White. House lights on at 50%. A projection screen stands upstage. Carla enters.
Through the ages, people have gathered around the fire to share in the listening and telling of stories. What is it about the fire that we're drawn to? Is it the warmth of the blaze, the flickering movement of the flames that draw us to the light, the glowing embers that mesmerize us? Or is it a sense of connection and belonging we feel when we gather around fires to tell stories?
House lights fade.
It seemed really strange, almost like I was in the eye of the storm. So I called 911. I said, I'm in Grayling Terrace and I'm watching the trees light on fire. The hill is lighting on fire. You guys need to send somebody now. And she said, and I'll never forget this, I'm sorry, but there's no one to send.
Could we just take a freaking moment here? The kids don't need school. That's not what's important right now. I get that there are some things to be done, the things we have to do, but right now we can't go home, so we are not going to make the kids go to school. We are not going to make this normal.
And I think for people that are recovering or being strong, it depends what they came back to. Because you know what? Somebody that came back who didn't have any damage started moving forward right away. The other ones that lost things, that was a completely different road that they were on. And it took us, we were up to year 3 getting our house fixed at Beacon Hill. Those things there that really challenged you.
I was 13 the first time I was told to be strong. It was on the May long weekend. My brother, who was a year older than me, had been killed in a car accident. My mom said we had to move on. That's what the family doctor told her. He said the best way to get over a catastrophic loss was just to move on. Get back to work, get back to school, get back to normal. Hell, what is normal? The accident happened on the Saturday of the long weekend, and I was back in school on Tuesday morning.
Being traumatized is a horrible feeling. And the only way for us to get out of it was to get back home. And we had to wait, and waiting was hard. Now, did we come home and everything was just magically? No, but being here helped healed the wounds, right?
Projection image, the welcome home Fort Mac signs.
Our homecoming was beautiful and emotional, and I wish I could rewind it and play it again and again. But the reality was, not everyone came home that day to see that official welcome. They say it takes 5 years to recover after a natural disaster. Do you feel as though you've completely recovered, or are there ways you have not?
End of play for now. Yay. Big, thunderous, digital standing ovation.
Clapping.
Our goal with this project was to help, as with all artist in residency projects, was to help an artist see something to fruition. And so when Carla came to us with this goal of, I think we need a play about the wildfire, our job as Arts Council is then to help build their capacity and to help see them through. And I think we have done that. And I think Carla is also, she'll tell you herself, but I think she's happy with the end result like we are. Albeit, with the pandemic and all those things, we had to kind of accept that it wasn't going to look the way that we dreamt it would. So, initially we were planning on having it inside of a theater where there's a huge audience of people who can watch it and provide feedback. But we ended up meeting all of those goals in different ways, I think. So what ended up happening is, instead of a staged reading, it was kind of a workshopped reading, which I think actually served Carla better in the long run. So one thing that I almost didn't foresee, we always knew that our goal was to heal through the arts. That was something that Carla wanted to do from the beginning through the script, and it's something that I think she has achieved. One thing that I didn't pay enough attention to, I think, from the beginning, and that's because I think I wasn't here for the wildfire, was how much this process was going to be healing for the artists themselves. We have an arts recovery coordinator who was working with us. Her name is Sharon Heading, and she always says, artists need to heal themselves before they can heal other people. And that's something that I kind of forgot, although I hear her voice saying it to me all the time. But watching this process from the outside in, it was very evident that Carla had to heal herself before she could approach writing a play that's designed to help heal other people. And then similarly with all of these actors who were in this workshop, a lot of whom had lived through the wildfire too, we were finding that they were also processing their own healing while helping us develop this play. So that it was another goal that I think we should have had from the beginning, that the process taught us we should have, which is to allow artists to heal themselves first before ask them to heal other people?
It was the first part of the rehearsals was a struggle in the beginning, because what they were provided on the first night was deep and in depth, and I think I said that we kind of all ended in this pool of emotion, and then it progressed from there, where we were able to really just tighten it up, and I was pleased with the progress that we made, and realized that we've still got about 25 minutes left of development to kind of wrap it up and complete the play. So I was pleased with where we were at, and a little, like, I had the kind of the let down after a big project, because it was a really intense time those last 2 weeks. I was sort of processing the emotions as I went. And so I thought that I was doing well. And then hearing other people's stories and sitting with them in their own sort of reflections and story of the trauma, it opened me up in a way that was really good. And so it helped to deepen my own healing. And I actually had a realization that how I had responded to something it was my kids going back to school. And we didn't send our kids back to school, and I had this big blow up about my kids aren't going back to school. And I had never made the connection before that response was related to when I was 13 years old and my brother was killed in an accident, and I went back to school the Tuesday after he died. And so it was like, oh, I'd never made that connection that was what that response was in the time. So yeah, there was some healing of other unresolved emotions that came up for me. So that's the beauty of healing and actually diving into processing the trauma, is that it heals other stuff too. So that was also part of my healing journey, is just being more me and recognizing and owning this creative piece that I've kind of pushed away. From the time I was little, it was like I was this artist that I didn't really own. Oh, this is going to be the 5-year anniversary, so to have something ready for the 5-year anniversary, and then it was like, no, because Come From Away was 20 years after 9/11, so it's the relevance of the play will go beyond just about the wildfire, because this is, we're in really crazy, uncertain times, that part of the wildfire play is bigger than just a response to the actual wildfire. It's dealing with all of the catastrophes in our life. It's dealing with the uncertainty of the times that we're going through now. And so that's what I hope to, bring this last piece of that, is that it will make it relevant beyond people that experienced a wildfire into people who are just experiencing life.